Hello, I'm Bret Moss, and you're watching the defining moment for creating the culture of conscience. Our guest today is Nadia Khalil Bradley. Nadia is the author of Origins of Truth, Words that Will Awaken You to the Truth of Your Heart. She's a Palestinian American who was raised as a practicing Muslim. As an adult, she began to hear the voice of Jesus Christ and went on to record her conversations with him in a journal. She was born in Chicago and now lives in Southern California. Together, she and her husband Sterling have 6 children. Nadia Khalil Bradley, welcome back to Defining Moment. It's really a pleasure for me to welcome you back to our studio.
Thank you for having me again.
It's really great to have you here. Our topic today is hearing and discerning divine guidance. And I'd like to begin by inviting you to share a defining moment from your own life.
This is quite a defining moment. I was 17 years old, and as a practicing Muslim, at that time I had just learned to pray 5 times a day. And when you pray those 5 times a day, you pray at dawn, and then you pray at noon, and then you pray when right before the sun goes down, a couple of hours, then you pray when the sun goes down, and then you pray before you go to bed. So those are your 5 times. But living in Chicago and going to school and working, I was in my senior year of high school, and I had my first job at a women's clothing store, and I was in school. So I had a lot of homework, and I would go from one to the other, and I was just very, very busy. So I would miss probably 3 or 4 of the prayers almost the whole day, and then you would have to make those prayers up before you go to bed. And each prayer consists of probably about 15 to 20 minutes to do. And it involves physical getting up and getting down and saying the same things over and over again. So that one day I rushed home, and you have to do something called wudu, which means to clean yourself before you pray. So I was cleaning my hands 3 times, my mouth 3 times, my nose, my ears, wiping my head, and you have to clean everything 3 times, your feet. And then you're ready to go and pray, and then you have to hope to God. And I know this sounds weird, but it's so true for all Muslims, is that you just don't want to pass gas or anything on your way, because if you do, you become dirty again, and you have to go back and do it again. So I'm like rushing over there thinking, okay, let me just make it. And it always happens when you start thinking about it, otherwise who would care, right? So I get there, and I did all my prayers, and I'm like going up and down and up and down, and 20 times later, I'm like, okay, now this one's this, and I'm repeating the same prayers over and over again. And then I was like, am I crazy? What did I just do? And I sat on my legs on the ground, and I had my scarf on, and I was on the prayer rug. And then I'm like, God, I just didn't feel anything. And it was the very first time I ever talked to God. And then I said, I felt closer to you before I did this. Now I feel farther away, like I have to do something or you're not going to love me. And I never felt that before. I used to just feel free, like now I'm always worried. Am I missing this prayer? I got to make it up. Am I going to be tired? I got to do my homework. My mind is wandering. I don't feel like I benefited anything right now, other than just trying to alleviate pressure from myself, because now I added not 1 more thing, but 5 more things to do a day. It's not that I don't like it, it's just made me more of a nervous person. And that same feeling, which later I found out, because Christ is with us, that love is with us all of our lives, even if it doesn't come and say, oh my gosh, I'm Christ and this is your job, which ended up happening to me later on in life, but I was 17 at this time. That same feeling when I actually saw him is what I felt in that moment. And my right hand lifts up when it happened, the initial time. And it happened that night where my hand just kind of goes up, and I always remember pushing it down, like what's going on. But now it's just, I put it down. And I got that feeling, that warm feeling inside. And then I felt like it's okay. It's not a race. That I'd already gotten what it was you needed to get from that. And that I don't need to do all of that to talk to God. That I could just talk to him. And I kind of just changed all of that in my life to, before I'd go to bed, I'd say a few prayers and I'd go to sleep. But I'd say prayers that meant something to me, that helped me think through what I was doing or the questions that I had, rather than just trying to recite something, because if I don't, I'm going to go to what we call hell and burn for whatever reason we believe that. Which is very interesting, because that defining moment also defined hell for me, and no fear of it. Because I kept thinking, what could I do that's so bad that would send me there?
Okay, thank you so much. It's very, very profound and very interesting. Thank you. Tell us about the universal language of love, truth, and purity.
We all come hardwired from home with love and truth and purity. It exists in our lives, throughout our lives. Every single one of us can go back to when we felt loved. We all remember those moments. When a teacher told us we were doing a great job, we repeat it until we go back home. We talk about the things that were true and honest, because we never forget the truth. It resonates within us. The pure feelings we had as a child, many of us go back and say, when I was 5 or when I was 6, and we talk about these things because those are the things we remember. People say, well, what about so-and-so? They did this and that was bad, and so-and-so did this, and we start talking about people because we don't want to talk about ourselves and what we've done. And I don't think yet I have found an example when people speak that somebody did something that wasn't okay to the rest of us, that they didn't do it or did do it because their love was pierced, or their truth was pierced, or their purity was pierced. Which means somewhere along the way, somebody got into their purity or their love and created a lack of love, which is what we respond to with something called hurt. And then we walk, oh, that hurt. I had a bad experience with that. Oh, that hurt me. And we can live with it all throughout life if we don't go back and understand why we were hurt there. So love and truth and purity is like the triangle, one of the strongest forces that literally balances our existence as people. And without it, we don't know how to live. And with it, we don't know what to do, because it doesn't fit in very easily. They call people who live with the love and the truth and the purity spiritual, and now we've got a label, or they've got a label. I don't know what to label life, because it's life. It doesn't have a right side or a left side. It doesn't have a Republican or a Democratic code. It doesn't have any of the things we've created. You don't have to be one or the other. Love is in everything. It is not separate from politics or jobs or your work or your children, or you love this person more than that person. Love is love is love. And as a mother of children, knowing how much you can love your child and what that means to you when you see them, and if they get hurt, you want to die, and all these feelings. But I look at everybody that way. I look at everyone as a soul who came here with a job, and their first instinct is to look for love and truth and purity. And when they don't find it here, they keep looking. Just like dating. If you don't find it here, you do keep looking. Sometimes we think dating is visual, if someone looks like something. And then we get there and we realize, okay, so this look doesn't work. Maybe I'll find something. And we forget that it's what's inside. Because looks come and go. Money comes and goes. Things come and go. But who are you in both places? I remember when I was single, and I make these deals with God all the time, by the way. It's just like I start making deals, but it's kind of fun for me because it's so easy to do. And I'll say to God, you know what? When I meet somebody that I'm going to marry, I want to meet them with sweats, no makeup, and both my kids with me. And I put my whole self on the table, because I wanted whoever was around me to really see who I was, and I wanted to be able to build from there instead of starting up on top on who I think I am or who I want to project, and then them seeing the real me 2 weeks later or a week later, and then we're all in shock. I would rather not do that and rather be real from the beginning, because it takes so much pressure off of us that we don't say, oh no, they can't come over until my house is clean, or they can't, because now you're stopping life from happening. You're trying to orchestrate life instead of living life in the moment, or even just living life and postponing for a day. When you know who you are, time no longer is relevant, because it doesn't matter when someone comes by. It doesn't matter when you see somebody. Nothing has to be prepared like that. And yet those moments that happen are the best moments you can ever have, because there's truth in them.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. How has developing your ability to hear and understand divine guidance transformed the quality of your life?
It completely changed me without looking like it changed a thing. It made me more patient on the inside, which gave me understanding of why I was patient on the outside. Earlier on in my life, I thought, well, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I don't want this person to be mad. I want to make sure I get this done because I said I'd do it. But now I do things differently. If I need to say no about something, I actually say, you know what, I really won't have time to do that, instead of taking it on and making myself nervous and then not having the good intentions it needs to get it done. And I know that that probably isn't my job if that's how I'm going to do it. I can force the issue, or I can say, you know what, somebody else might really be ready for this. It's not mine right now. Not trying to own everything. And I really found out the less you own, the less control you try to have, the more control you actually do have. But you have to give that up to understand what it even looks like or means to your life. But when you say to yourself, in the worst case, if whatever it is I'm trying to do doesn't work out, and I gave it my pure intent, going back to the love and the truth and the purity, you don't get mad the same when your pure intent is involved, because you know you gave it everything that you had from your heart. And if that didn't do what it was you thought you needed to do, then that wasn't meant for you. It's one way to know. But how do you know where your intentions are? And you have to ask yourself, what do I want back from this? When you know what you want back, then you understand why you're doing something. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means you understand. So if it doesn't work out and you gave it all the things that you can, then it wasn't yours. And to know when to move on and when to hang on. But because insecurities in our society and in this time have taken on a whole nother form, because everything's about winning, we become obsessive about getting what we want. And now we have pills to stop the obsessiveness from happening, and it's only because we've gotten far away from our truth. Life wasn't set up to win or lose. Nobody wins or loses. We're all born. We all go back. Something we all do. If you really think about life, we come here to go back. Nobody comes to Earth to stay forever. Now, I don't know if anyone met anyone who has. I haven't. But we come to live a mission that we agreed to do before we came here. It doesn't mean we're predestined, because Earth is all about free will. But yet, what we're doing, we agreed that that's what we would do and that's what we would learn, and the situations are set up for us to grow our souls and to evolve. And then we go back and take a peek, and what feels like 80 years here is 5 minutes, because there is no time. But it's slowed down so we can learn the lessons and grow our souls. It's all about learning. Over and over again, it's about learning. When we lose sight of learning and want to buy the answers, which is pretty much the point at which we're at, then we've lost the lessons. And we wonder why we're empty. We walk around going, why can't I feel? And we don't stop to look inside of ourselves to say, well, I took a shortcut here and a shortcut there, and I got the car, but I didn't work. I just told the money I didn't, we don't stop to think what stopped us along the way, because we thought that prize was going to solve our issues and fill that hole, whatever prize it is. But you can't fill a hole with something that's empty.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Why do angels speak to people, and what do they have to teach us?
They actually are reminders. They remind us that we come from God. All angels are like flickers of light, that if God were to come down and stand in front of you, you would combust, because his energy is so great. So he created many, many specks of love, of just pure love, that surround all of us and carry us while we're here doing this mission, which is in one of the hardest planes of all of them, which is Earth. Because here we have lower energies. And the angels are here to remind us there's a bigger picture. People will say, I fell and I said, oh my God, help me. But people just say that like as a reaction. Mm-hmm. But yet they're helped in those times. And they'll say, out of nowhere, something came and did this or lifted me. And now we've heard many stories of people who were in car accidents or had slipped and fallen or were in tight situations anywhere. And will say something came and then left. And it's only because we asked. We said, God, help me. We don't realize how simple it is. We just try to do everything ourselves, and we've made things so hard for us to attain. And when we used to see people talk to themselves and we say, oh, you're crazy. Sometimes I say, even if you don't move your lips, use your mind. Talk to God. He's right there. Talk to him like you would a friend, because that's who he is. It's hard to tell people that who believe in burning, in hell. And so I said to God, because I know as a Muslim, we can burn. And so I said, but why would we be getting hurt if you love us so much? Why would you hurt us in the worst way we can imagine? You know what the answer was? Why would God burn you? He said, ask people, why would I burn you? I love you. He said, hell is the lack of love. When there isn't love around, that's when we feel like we're in hell. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be burned to exemplify that fact. It's the lack of love that we get lost from. Not one person who's had a near-death experience, I don't care who they were across the board, whether they believed in God or not, saw anything that hurt them. We have enough of those experiences documented where I could say, it's not just the angels that I know, because I'm nobody special. They're all of ours. There's billions of them. And now they're more visible. There's more people like me getting these messages. I'm not alone. And I'm not any more special than anybody. One of my jobs was to do this, and I resisted quite a bit initially. When I first saw Christ, I was actually upset about it, because I'm Muslim. I didn't know what to do with him. I'm like, why did you come to me, and what am I supposed to do? And he told me, and I'm still like, what am I supposed to do? And how? I was told I was an author before I even met Sterling, who really started the first book, who put it together. Plan A was that I was going to die with all of this writing in my drawer, and someone would find it and publish these books. Not to mention the list I had of people I would never tell this happened to me. Because I didn't know how to incorporate such love into my life. But we can't take God that's love and turn him into a conditional person that is out to hurt us if we're not okay. Because if we really thought about it, God is with us all the time. I think one of the hardest things to accept initially when I first saw Christ was that I never felt private anymore. I never felt like I had those private moments when you're by yourself and you're like reading or you're watching TV or whatever it is you think you're doing. I always knew I wasn't alone anymore. And that has its benefits, and it also has its kind of weird. But you know what happened as a result of that? I no longer had anything to hide. I figured, shoot, if God sees it, what matters to me if somebody else sees it?
Okay.
It really puts it in perspective.
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you so much. How can a person go about awakening their own divine guidance?
This is a very important question for someone listening, because, again, it isn't just me. I'm just here to wake it up in you, but you already know. People already know. And it goes back to self-accounting. What is your own role in your own life, and how honest are you with yourself? Because until you really know that, it's hard to get to anything else, because you're still too busy trying to be something, trying to act like everything is okay instead of it really being okay, waiting until you do the next thing to be okay, running after that, racing all the time. But knowing that there's actually a formula. We tried to do it in a way so that people can kind of check themselves in the middle of whatever they're doing and say, why am I doing this? But having your accounting, your self-accounting, why am I doing this? Plus your intent. You know, what is my intention here? What do I actually want from this? What don't I want from it? And why am I doing it? And then seeing if that will grow you or not. And that's like A plus I equals G. We have it in the book. It's the only formula in the whole book. It's not like, but it's something that we wanted to put together so that people can quickly assess in the middle of whatever it is they think they're doing and say, is this going to grow me or not? Is this in my best interest or not? Am I doing right by myself to do this? And if you can ask yourself that, then you get better questions. And as you have better questions, your answers get better. And then you get to a point where pure energy travels. It's the only energy that travels. You know how you hear people who said, oh, I saw this or I saw that angel. That's usually in their most pure moment, when there's no interference between them and themselves. I wrote something called The Space Between You and You, and how we get in our own way most of the time because we already have a preconceived idea of what anything is supposed to look like or mean. But if you let that go, if you let the boundaries go, I was thinking about somebody reading this book for the first time. What would that do to them? And then I thought, if they can just take out everything they know without any limits or boundaries to thinking, the book makes complete sense. But because we've got ego running in our heads, and we've got, who we're going to get back and how we're going to get ahead here, and as soon as we get that going on all at one time, if something doesn't fit into helping us get our motive, then it's not worth listening to. It's almost like a nervous energy instead of a calm or peaceful thing. But one of the benefits to me of this happening was that I still do those same things, but I do them from a different angle in my mind and in my heart. And they're much more fulfilling. I'm not nervous about it. I don't have to scream at anybody if I didn't get my way, or hurt anybody because I'm hurt. And that objectivity that I have gained as a result of knowing this, it's something I call now objective love. I don't need anything back from you for loving you. It's the most freedom I've ever felt in my life. Because now I really do love you for you, and I have no judgment. Because it's not my job to judge you. And I found that we only judge others when we're mad at ourselves first.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. What dangers are involved in spiritual channeling, and what precautions should people take if they're involved in that kind of work?
I think the only danger I could really think of is trying to get something back out of doing something like talking to God. If you're talking to God because you have a problem and you want it solved, talk to God and tell Him that you will accept any answer. Not just the answer you want. Because you might get the answer and it might not be what you want, but it might be for the greater good of your soul. And to really put the trust in what you're doing, rather than using that as a tool, and then if it doesn't work, getting mad at it for not getting what you wanted. I really had to learn to just talk to God. And I never ever thought He'd talk back, but the fact that He did has really changed my perspective on what I ask for. There is a one of us. Because if I accept somebody being killed, then I need to accept that for myself. And if you think that way, we wouldn't kill others. We wouldn't hurt others. But if you're going to hurt somebody, someone's going to come back and hurt you too. And if you're surprised by that, we've got to start at the beginning. Of saying, well, if I hurt them, I have to accept that. That's going to come back. And I'm going to have to understand what it felt like for that person to feel that somehow. If you don't know how to love somebody, it's not because you don't know how to love others. It's because you haven't learned how to do that for yourself. Our love is to be shared. You can't bring a person in to solve that for you, because now you've put pressure on them to teach you love, when you haven't been able to teach yourself. But once you can love, you can share that, which is different than ownership or possession. Or if that person leaves me, I'll die because they're my love. That's, again, going back to what we're seeing now in the world, where people, if they lose somebody, they kill the person and the family, and it's ridiculous what we're doing now. But that's how far away we are from self-love. That the anger that's been there and not addressed has grown to that. So to go back to your question about what are the dangers, don't use God. Just don't use Him. Just love Him back. He already loves you. Just love Him back.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. How can our viewers get a copy of your book, Origins of Truth?
You can get it from our website, which is origins-of-truth.com.
Nadia, Khalil, Bradley, thank you so much for being our guest on The Defining Moment. It's really been fascinating, truly inspiring to listen to everything you've had to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.